We're talking to Yehoshua Coren. He's a data analytics consultant. He calls himself Analytics Ninja. And about the importance of first thinking what you want to analyze and what the business questions are, right?
Right. So I was thinking about e-commerce in particular. And oftentimes a company may want to dive deeper into their existing metrics, get more out of their data. But the problem is that they didn't do strategic planning first. They didn't ask business questions. And to get really good answers, you have to ask good questions first. Because what a company...
Do you have an example?
Yeah, I'll give an example. A company will probably find out like, oh, I don't have that data. A good example would be the difference between the performance of loyal and existing customers versus first-time customers. And if you're not passing that data into your web analytics package, you're not going to be able to answer that question, and you're probably not going to be able to answer it retroactively either.
So first then you want to see what are my business questions, then what's the data related to it before you even start.
Right. So
start collecting that data.
Correct. That the strategic implementation plan will start with good business questions, make sure that the data collection mechanisms are in place to get that data, and then you'll be in a good place to begin reporting and analyzing and optimizing.
And then what? What do I do?
Well, once you are able to see the different behavior in segmentations across different customer base in terms of across visitor intent at different stages in their purchasing process, you'll be able to optimize campaigns in order to improve performance. Ultimately, oftentimes people say, what is the best KPI? What should I be focusing on? The short answer to that is profit. Right? People should, and that's something that I think, let's say that you're using Google Analytics or most standard web analytics packages, they're looking at revenue. They're not necessarily looking at profit or real return on investment for advertising campaigns. But once you're able to really segment your data well, you'll find where are the areas that you can turn the dials a little bit so that you can optimize your profits at the end of the day through campaign optimization.
And do you think you should always look at the profit and then see what data I need to look at profit?
Well, ultimately, if you're a business that its goals are to be financially successful, yeah, I think that profit is the place that you should be looking at.
People who want to start this, how do they start?
It's a good question. I would say brainstorming questions. The first place is to say, this is a type of data that I need, right? And frame it in like, if I knew this, then I would do that, right? Which is a simple way to make a hypothesis. Say, if I was answer this question, these are the actions I would take. Don't just ask a question because it's interesting, right? That's just going to give you a bunch of interesting, something that you can't do anything about. But if you can frame it, if I knew the answer to this question, this is the action that I would take, then you can make sure that you're collecting data that allows you to answer those questions.
Do you have a customer example that you can talk us through?
A customer example.
One of the customers you work with?
Not one's coming to mind at the moment.
What customers are you working on today?
So I work with a number of different customers. Not all are e-commerce. I'm working with a company called Billabong.
That's a cool company.
That's a cool company. They do a lot.
What do you do?
What I do, I help them with their analytics implementation in terms of, and training.
Google Analytics or?
Google Analytics is their tool of choice at the moment, yeah.
And that's fine with you?
Yeah, I think for different companies have different needs right now in terms of their needs and in terms of their work, their team. Google Analytics is a good choice. And that's a very important point, is that when you're looking at what are your needs from a tool, you have to look at your capabilities as a company. Who's going to be using this data? Who's going to be accessing the tool? If Google Analytics is a great tool because it has very broad adoption and it's easy to learn and it has good interface. So while it may not be as powerful as some of the paid tools, if somebody's not going to use an expensive paid tool, it's just a waste of money.
Yeah, so if you're a starter in web analytics or data analytics, then Google Analytics is a very good choice.
I think Google Analytics is a good choice because it's very powerful and robust, and it has a free price point in terms of the software package. One downside of that is that people may not invest heavily enough in their analytics because the price of the software starts as free, as opposed to a paid solution. If you're paying money for software package, So then you may be more likely to also invest in the implementation and also likely to invest into the people who will be using the tool. So there's a plus and a minus with regards to the free price point for the Google Analytics non-premium package.
So let's say your analytics is very important to you, and you have a team of 3 senior analysts, and you're choosing a package. What sort of packages are you on your shortlist then?
So there's a lot of good tools out there. Again, I would look specifically for what sort of business questions you're trying to answer. For example, if you have a software as a service solution that you're selling, so then I might look at something like Kissmetrics, who I think does a very good job with their cohort analysis and understand the time with the funnels and how people are moving through the processes of software as a service. If you may look at Adobe Analytics as a package, if for e-commerce or for content. There's always, again, the tool needs to fit. Can I answer my questions with it? So there's no one size fits all. Google's a good starting point for everybody because it's free and it's a basic package and it's robust. It can be very strong, but I wouldn't want to recommend the Google Analytics per se for something like software as a service, as if you have money to invest in one of the paid packages.
So the key question is, you branded yourself an analytics ninja. How come?
How come? Well, that was a term coined by Avinash Kaushik a number of years ago, and I thought it'd be a cute way to brand myself, simply because you can put a nice logo on the website and something that's memorable. So
what's ninja about you?
Listen, I do my best to be expert in the Google Analytics tool, and one of the things I try to bring to the table for people is true expertise in that particular software package. I've chosen strategically within my company to really focus our efforts in Google Analytics because it has such broad adoption by so many companies. Millions and millions of websites are using it. So that's, I think, the ninja aspect, knowing Google Analytics really, really cold, very, very well, so that answer people's questions and help them instrument it in a successful way for their businesses.
So you could say you're an expert in Google Analytics, right? And Universal Analytics. What's the newest thing that people don't know yet about Google Analytics that they should know?
I think what many people aren't aware of are maybe some of the newer features as they relate to setting up custom dimensions or
custom dimensions.
Dimensions. Yeah, custom dimensions and custom metrics. That's
why. How do you use that?
Well, they describe your website or your mobile app or your business really in your own terms. So, for example, let's say that I was measuring something like people's ethnicity because they're filling out a survey, right? So I would want to capture that data, and I would have a field available as a custom dimension called ethnicity. Or we talked about for e-commerce, profit. There is no profit metric in Google Analytics, but if I pass back into my e-commerce sale a custom metric called profit, so then in my standard reports, the CEO and the CMO can see a report in Google Analytics that has a column called profit. So custom dimensions and custom metrics, I think, are very important that not a lot of people don't utilize.
And then you can set up segments based on those dimensions and look at what those specific people do, like the ethnicity or the very profitable people on your website.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's,
you can look, for instance, what do very profitable people do on my website.
Correct. And that's really the whole purpose of being able to customize your data. And it harkens back to our original discussion about asking the right business questions. Right? The right business question is going to be answered with a custom piece of data. It's going to be answered with a custom dimension or with a custom metric or a combination of them. And the whole goal is then to be able to segment, to slice and dice your data, look at this particular group of people as opposed to the aggregate whole.
Okay. Last tip for people who use Google Analytics. What's the most important thing they need to look out for?
Don't be satisfied with I copied and pasted the code onto my website, because it's not going to speak to your business in the way that you want it to. ask questions. I think that that's the key. Ask questions and then
Business question.
yeah, ask business questions and then look at your analytics data and say, do I have an answer to that? Can I answer that? And if not, make sure that it's there, and then you'll be able to answer really good questions and make really good decisions.
Great, thank you.